Bullies thought she was weak. Her spinning kick changed everything. A story by Heartfelt Tales. The sound of a hand striking flesh echoed through the empty hallway like a gunshot. Ms. Elena Martinez stumbled forward, her book scattering across the polished floor as three boys burst into cruel laughter behind her. What they didn't know was that their new teacher had been waiting her entire life for this moment, not to be humiliated, but to prove that sometimes the quiet ones carry the biggest surprises. If this story moves you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Elena had arrived at Jefferson Middle School 3 weeks ago, carrying more than just lesson plans and hope. She carried the weight of her past, memories of being the small, quiet girl who had been pushed around, laughed at, and dismissed. At 28, she stood barely 5 feet tall, with gentle brown eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a voice that rarely rose above a whisper. To her students, she looked like an easy target. To the administration, she seemed like a sweet, harmless addition to their faculty. But Elena Martinez had a secret that no one at Jefferson Middle School could have imagined. The 3 boys who had just humiliated her, Marcus, Tyler, and Jake, were the school's most notorious bullies. They had made an art form of tormenting teachers and students alike, leaving a trail of tears and resignation letters in their wake. Marcus, the ringleader, stood 6 feet tall despite being only 14, his presence intimidating even some of the male teachers. Tyler and Jake followed his lead like faithful shadows, eager to prove their loyalty through cruelty. Elena slowly gathered her scattered books, her hands trembling not from fear, but from the effort of holding back 20 years of suppressed anger. She could feel the familiar fire building in her chest, the same flame that had driven her to train for hours every day since she was 8 years old, the same determination that had earned her a black belt in Taekwondo and made her a regional champion before she chose teaching over competition. "Look at her," Marcus sneered, his voice carrying down the hallway. "She's gonna cry. Maybe we should find her a tissue." The other 2 boys laughed, but their amusement was cut short when Elena stood up and turned around. There was something different in her posture, something that made the laughter die in their throats. Her shoulders were squared, her chin lifted, and her eyes, those gentle brown eyes that had seemed so meek moments before, now blazed with quiet intensity. "Marcus," she said, her voice still soft but carrying a steel undertone that made him take an involuntary step back. "Come here." "What?" Marcus tried to maintain his swagger, but uncertainty flickered across his face. "You can't tell me what to do. You're just a teacher." "I said come here." Elena's voice remained calm, but there was something in her tone that made the hallway suddenly feel smaller, more dangerous. "Now." Marcus looked at his friends, then back at Elena. His pride wouldn't let him back down, not in front of Tyler and Jake. He took a step forward, then another, until he was standing just a few feet away from her. "What are you gonna do?" he taunted, raising his hand as if to slap her again. "Tell the principal? Write me up? I've heard it all before, lady." What happened next would become legend at Jefferson Middle School. Elena's response was so quick, so fluid, that it seemed to happen in slow motion and lightning speed simultaneously. As Marcus's hand came toward her face, she stepped to the side with the grace of a dancer, caught his wrist with her left hand, and spun him around with a precision that spoke of years of training. Before he could even process what was happening, Elena's right leg swept up in a perfect spinning kick that connected with his shoulder, sending him stumbling backward into his shocked friends. The hallway fell silent except for the sound of Marcus's heavy breathing and the soft echo of Elena's footstep as she settled back into her calm stance. Tyler, Jake, Elena said, her voice returning to its usual gentle tone as if nothing had happened. Help Marcus up. Then all three of you will walk to my classroom, where we're going to have a conversation about respect. The boys stared at her in complete shock. Marcus rubbed his shoulder, his face flushed with embarrassment and confusion. He had never been handled so easily, so professionally. It wasn't just that she had defended herself, it was the way she had done it, with such control and confidence that it completely shattered his perception of who she was. How did you? Jake started to ask, but Elena held up a hand. My classroom. Now. The walk to Elena's classroom felt like a funeral procession. Word had already begun to spread through the school's mysterious communication network. The new teacher had just taken down Marcus Peterson with a single move. Students peered out of doorways, teachers whispered in the faculty lounge, and the principal received 3 different versions of the story before the boys had even reached Elena's door. Inside her classroom, Elena gestured for the 3 boys to sit in the front row. She perched on the edge of her desk, her legs dangling like a child's, but her presence now commanded respect in a way that had nothing to do with authority and everything to do with earned dignity. I want to tell you a story, she began, her voice gentle again but carrying a weight that made the boys lean forward despite themselves. When I was your age, I was small. Smaller than I am now, if you can believe it. I was quiet, I wore thick glasses, and I carried books everywhere I went. I was, in every way, what you might call an easy target. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his seat. There was something in Elena's tone that made him feel exposed, vulnerable. I was bullied every day for 3 years, Elena continued. Kids would knock my books out of my hands, just like you did today. They would call me names, exclude me from groups, and make me dread coming to school. I went home crying almost every day, and my parents didn't know what to do. Tyler looked down at his hands, suddenly finding his fingernails very interesting. But then something happened that changed everything. A new student arrived at our school, a girl named Sarah who was even smaller than me, even quieter. And I watched as the same kids who had tormented me turned their attention to her. I watched her cry the way I had cried, and I realized something important. Elena paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the room. I realized that I had a choice. I could let the cycle continue, or I could be the person I had wished would stand up for me. So I did something that scared me more than any bully ever had, I stood up to them. Did you fight them? Marcus asked, his voice smaller than usual. No, Elena said. I didn't need to. But I prepared myself so that I could if I had to. My parents enrolled me in martial arts classes, not to hurt people, but to give me confidence. To teach me that I was stronger than I believed, and that strength isn't about intimidating others, it's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. She stood up and moved to the window, looking out at the schoolyard where other students were enjoying their lunch break. I became a teacher because I wanted to be the adult I needed when I was your age. Someone who would stand up to bullies, someone who would show students that they don't have to be victims or aggressors, they can choose to be protectors. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Marcus spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. Why didn't you hurt me? You could have. I mean, that move you did, you could have really hurt me. Elena turned back to face them, and for the first time since they had known her, she smiled, not the nervous, placating smile she had worn for 3 weeks, but a genuine, warm expression that transformed her entire face. Because hurting you wouldn't have taught you anything except to fear me. And I don't want your fear, Marcus. I want your respect. More than that, I want you to respect yourselves enough to stop hurting others." Over the next hour, Elena shared more of her story. She talked about the years of training, the competitions she had won, the confidence she had built. But more importantly, she talked about the students she had taught in previous schools, the bullies who had become leaders, the victims who had found their voices. "The truth is," she said, "bullies aren't born mean. They're usually scared, or hurt, or trying to prove something to themselves or others. And the kids they pick on aren't weak, they're just different, or quiet, or haven't found their strength yet." Marcus found himself thinking about his own home life, about his father's constant criticism, about the pressure to be tough, to never show weakness. Tyler thought about being the smallest kid in his class until this year, about the relief he felt when Marcus chose him as a friend instead of a target. Jake remembered his older brother's endless taunts, the way he had learned to deflect hurt by inflicting it on others. "What do you want from us?" Marcus asked finally. "I want you to think about the person you want to be," Elena said. "Not the person you think you have to be to survive, but the person you could be if you chose courage over cruelty, strength over intimidation." That afternoon, something unprecedented happened at Jefferson Middle School. Marcus Peterson, Tyler Chen, and Jake Williams walked through the halls not looking for victims, but offering help. They helped a sixth grader carry his heavy backpack, stood up for a girl being teased about her braces, and even cleaned up trash in the cafeteria without being asked. The transformation didn't happen overnight. There were setbacks, moments when old patterns reasserted themselves. But Elena was there, consistent and patient, offering guidance instead of punishment, understanding instead of judgment. She started an after-school program she called Strength and Honor, where students could learn basic self-defense, but more importantly, they could learn about conflict resolution, empathy, and leadership. Marcus became one of her most dedicated students, his natural leadership abilities redirected toward positive goals. Tyler discovered he had a talent for mediating disputes, his small size and gentle nature making him approachable to younger students. Jake found his voice as a mentor, his own experience with bullying making him particularly effective at helping others. But perhaps the most significant change was in Elena herself. She had spent so many years being the quiet, accommodating teacher that she had forgotten her own strength. Standing up to those boys had reminded her that she didn't have to choose between being kind and being strong, she could be both. The story of Elena's spinning kick spread beyond Jefferson Middle School. Parents shared it at dinner tables, teachers discussed it in faculty meetings, and students carried it with them as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who choose not to use their power to hurt others. 6 months later, Jefferson Middle School had the lowest bullying incident rate in the district. But more importantly, it had become a place where students felt safe to be themselves, where differences were celebrated rather than mocked, where strength was measured not by the ability to intimidate, but by the courage to stand up for what was right. Elena kept a photo on her desk, not of her martial arts trophies or teaching awards, but of Marcus, Tyler, and Jake at the school's annual talent show, where they had performed a skit about kindness and courage. In the photo, they were laughing, their arms around each other's shoulders, their faces bright with the joy of friendship built on mutual respect rather than fear. The girl who had once been bullied had become the teacher who stopped the cycle. The boys who had once been bullies had become the students who protected others. And the school that had once been a place of fear had become a community of strength. Sometimes, the most powerful lessons come not from textbooks or lectures, but from the courage to stand up and show others that they are stronger than they know. Sometimes, the quiet ones really do carry the biggest surprises. And sometimes, a single moment of standing up for yourself can change not just your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. Elena Martinez had learned long ago that true strength isn't about the ability to hurt others, it's about the wisdom to protect them. And in teaching that lesson to her students, she had reminded herself of the most important truth of all: we all have the power to choose who we want to be, and the courage to become that person, no matter how small or quiet we might seem. The spinning kick had lasted only a second, but its impact would last a lifetime. If this story inspired you to think about the power of standing up for others while choosing compassion over cruelty, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribing to Heartfelt Tales for more stories that remind us of the strength we all carry within. Your comments mean the world to us. Let us know about a time when you or someone you know chose courage over fear. Together, we can create a world where everyone feels safe to be their authentic selves. ****